Thank you, Jack. What if the race is over? You would just be here, awake, in the present moment. You wouldn't have any worries. You wouldn't have any thought. You wouldn't have any grievances, any thoughts of the past. Do you know what? You can have that state of mind right now. It's just your decision. It's a great question. I love songs because you can put so many great questions into a song, and your heart answers those questions as the song is being sung. I left you guys 2 weeks ago with the place that we are one. That place in you, which the entire universe dwells. And when I meet you in that place, we greet each other with a namaste. And that's an acknowledgement that we are one. And when we are acknowledging we are one, that is awakening. So I am going to give you a warning. This message this morning comes with a stern warning. The light in me is contagious. You're going to catch it. Something's going to happen to you. That's the warning that I'm putting out this morning. I read something very cool in Eckhart Tolle's book. He's one of our modern-day mystics and authors. Many of you know him and has read his book, The Power of Now. He wrote another book after that, and it's called A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. Because awakening to the real world is really, in my opinion, the great need of humankind. Waking up to the world that demonstrates God's love. There is a real world. That world is the world of all your loving thoughts, of all your loving acts, of all your loving deeds, of all your loving words. And that's all that exists there. And everything else is illusion, and it falls away. But in order to fulfill this need, we're going to have an opportunity to recognize that divine consciousness, divine love, divine light is our natural state of being. Divine love is the only natural state of being for the human being. It's your only natural state. You aren't comfortable arguing in conflict, in war, with disaster, with grievance, having enemies, having opposites, being in separation, being afraid of death, being afraid of life, being afraid of everyone, locking your doors, protecting your bank accounts, protecting a car. Who could put that scratch on my car? You know, in the parking lot. Oh, look at this guy. I saw him checking his car, looking for scratches. How are my tires? You know? Yeah. Because
I hit a curb yesterday.
He hit a curb. Oh, my car! My world is falling apart. I hit a curb. Great example. No, it's a good example because there's a story. I'm going to have to go to the mechanic. I got the same story as you. I hit a pothole. I'm like, all of a sudden my mind's like, I'm going to the mechanic. There's $900 out of my bank account. I won't be able to eat. I'm dead. That's the human mind. It just goes straight to that. Right? Oh, you looked at me funny? Uh-oh, I'm not good enough. I didn't go to school long enough. I grew up in the wrong family. I didn't have enough money. I'm dead. Whatever it is, it's like you use it against yourself. And it's like you go just down the list. Right? And it's like, oh man, your life doesn't mean anything all of a sudden because you hit a pothole. It's like that. Oh, I forgot my wallet in the car. I got a cart full of groceries and and there's a line of people behind me and I'm a bad person and I don't know what to do and they all hate me and I'm dead. You always end up in the same place. What if your story always ended up at, I'm awake, I'm happy, I'm in love, everybody loves me? What if your story was turned around and those things is what's going through your mind no matter what happens? Isn't that amazing? What if it's a forgiveness story? What if it's a wonderful story? Oh, I hit the pothole. That's okay. The DPW will come out and fix the pothole. I'll call them up with a nice cheery voice and tell them where it is. And the next person won't hit the pothole. I'm a great person. And their car will be fine, and they won't have to pay $900 to the mechanic to fix their tie rods.
But that guy needs that $900. So you're really doing a good service.
And you're doing a good service because you're paying him the $900 to the mechanic, but you're avoiding the other guy having to pay the You're doing it for him. So anyway, there you go. It's all a positive flow of energy and thought. And when that is your default way of thinking, you end up being awake in the dream. And I want to read a little bit about awakening, because I think Eckhart Tolle is a brilliant writer, and he puts things in ways, really beautiful spiritual ideas in ways that you can understand. Your purpose, your inner purpose, is to awaken. It is as simple as that. You share that purpose with every other person on the planet because it is the purpose of humanity. Your inner purpose is an essential part of the purpose of the whole universe and its emerging intelligence. Your outer purpose can change over time. It varies greatly from person to person. Finding and living in alignment with the inner purpose is the foundation for your outer purpose. Your purpose is to awaken. It's part of the emerging intelligence of the universe. There are so many things we can't even begin to understand. It's emerging in us. And it's emerging through an awakening consciousness. He also goes on to say something very interesting here. He says, with the grace of awakening comes responsibility. You can either try to go on as if nothing happened, or you can see its significance and recognize the arising awareness as the most important thing that has ever happened to you. Opening yourself to the emerging consciousness and bringing its light into the world then becomes the primary purpose of your life. I want to know the mind of God, Einstein said. The rest are details. So we literally are the light of the world. You are not in the universe, another quote from Eckhart Tolle. You literally are the universe. You are an intrinsic part of it. You are not a person, a separate person. Ultimately, no, you're not a person, but a focal point where the universe is becoming conscious of itself. What an amazing miracle. Yeah, Penny's going, wow, wow, wow. Isn't that incredible? I'm a focal point where the universe is becoming conscious of itself. The emerging intelligence of the universe is showing up in me, through me, and as me. And all I need to do is recognize it and responsibly affirm it. That's the responsibility we have, is to affirm it, affirm the truth that the universe is moving in us, through us, and as us. And the reason people awaken is because they finally stopped agreeing to things that insult their soul. And when you look around at the world, a lot of things may insult your soul these days. Don't lash back in anger. Don't resist. Just say, thank you. You have insulted my soul. I am going to wake up. I will not be part of this game because it insults my soul. When you look around this world, you see the violence and the devastation. You must realize it's not the will of God. And therefore, it's not your will either. We literally are the light of the world. I want to read you something from Corinthians. This is called the Possibility Thinker's Bible. Robert Schuller used to sell those. And he was a good traditional Christian that took a lot of unity beliefs out into the traditional Christian world. And one of them was positive thinking. And I love it. I love the fact that this is not relegated to churches or denominations or spiritual groups, that this is just given to you as an individual, as a way of thinking. You can think positively. And it's all through the Bible, all these amazing, incredible affirmations that we are the light of the world. So in Ephesians, we'll start there, chapter 5, verse 8, he says, "You were, walk in the light, for you were in darkness, but now you are the light in the Lord." And when we look at that metaphysically, the light in the Lord means you are in the recognition of the Christ self, the God self. The Lord being your higher consciousness, that guiding principle that never leaves you, that's always with you. It's within you. It's not a person that we're following. It's a guidance from within that we're following. That's the true Lord. And when in the Old Testament, the Jewish people would pray to the Lord, there wasn't a Jesus around that they prayed to. Lord Jesus. No, it was the Lord of their being. And Jesus represented the Lord of his being. And he's asking you today to represent the Lord of your being, to walk in the light, to walk in the light. And he says, for the fruits, he says, walk as children of light, for the fruits of the Spirit, and in all goodness and righteousness and truth, prove what is acceptable to the Lord, to your higher consciousness. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. Isn't that interesting? And then he says at the end of it, at the end of this verse, awake, you who are sleeping, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. So the whole call is to awake, because the world is awakening. Every time a person awakens to universal truth, the whole of humanity raises up another notch in consciousness, in higher consciousness. The world is awakening from this separate state. And separation is death. The idea that we are separate from each other and from God, that's what death is. It's not death of the body. It's a numbness of the spirit. It's an unconsciousness and an unknowing of who you are. That's death. And that's why he says, arise from the dead, and the Christ within you will give you light. Because now your thoughts are of your higher consciousness. And our brother and way shower, Jesus, who demonstrated the Christ in himself constantly in this book, has been reported to say that you are just like me, that you are the light of the world. Hasn't it been said that you are God's? Awake. You are sleeping. That's all. That's all. It's time to wake up. When he went over into the little girl's room, and they all thought she was dead, and he raised her up from that state. And he said, she's not dead. She was just sleeping. It's the same with you. You're just sleeping. You're just clouded by the thoughts of the world. You just are trapped in the unreality, and it's time to awaken to the real world. Let's look at what else I pulled off the internet last night. Awakening's not a matter of intelligence. You think you need to figure it out. It's not like that. Like Eckhart Tolle said, it's a matter of grace. Many intelligent people are deep in illusion, but rather awakening happens when one has an insatiable thirst to know the truth, to keep knowing more, to keep growing in the truth. Stowe Good sang a song. They let me play the harmonica on this one song. And it says, woe to the one who has all the answers. Because you stop growing when you have all the answers. You stop learning. You need to keep that insatiable thirst for the truth going and stay awake. The real world of awakening is every loving thought the Son of God has ever had. And that's eternal. Your loving thoughts are eternal. The loving thoughts that his mind perceives in this world are the world's only reality. And that's from chapter 11 in the text of A Course in Miracles. And I want it to sink in for a moment, because it will help you to make the decision each and every day to focus on your loving thoughts, to focus on what's eternal, to focus on a new perception. That is your awakening, that new perception. It's a shift in consciousness from fear to love. As you evolve, you may make a lot of people uncomfortable. Evolve anyway. Keep evolving. You don't have to explain it. Just keep evolving. It's a cellular experience. Keep evolving. It may be impossible to explain. Don't worry about that. Just reap the benefits of awakening, my friends. And you'll have that little smile on your face all the time. All the time. Those who are awake live in a state of constant amazement. That smile will never leave your face. You will always be able to smile in every situation. Yesterday during our class, that smile came back to me in such a big way when Kathy was doing the meditation, sending out love to those who we disagree with, who we greatly disagree with, the ones we most disagree with. And when we are loving and connected, even with those in our heart, guess what? It ceases to manifest in our world, because what we are manifesting is love. If we can love the one at most distance from us, it will collapse the distance and include everyone in between. We're in constant amazement at how spiritual law works. And we can awaken all of humanity. Lao Tzu, who came before Jesus and Buddha, he was 3,500 years ago. He was before those two guys. I look at them as the big three in my mind. He's purported to be the author, or at least the biggest inspiration of the Tao Te Ching. And he was Wayne Dyer's biggest teacher, Lao Tzu. And he says, if you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate suffering in the world, eliminate all that is dark and negative in yourself. Truly, the greatest gift you can give to yourself is that of your own self-transformation. Amazing words that hold true and will hold true till the end of time. And that's because they contain a fundamental, universal spiritual truth. Those truths never change, and they will endure from the beginning to the end of time. And this is a universal truth, that if you want to awaken the world, you have to awaken all of yourself. So perhaps the world really is awakening, and we're right in the middle of an awakening. And then we can't see it because we have other thoughts going on. That's what happens. We miss all the good stuff because we're watching a different kind of show. Take responsibility. That's the thing that Eckhart was trying to tell us in his book, is if you're taking responsibility for your own spiritual awakening and transformation of self, you are directly impacting the awakening of humanity. Your personal evolution is needed for the world to change. End of story. And it's so beautiful because when things aren't looking the way I want, I just keep going back to that. Okay, I'll improve myself. I'm in charge of my own mind. I'm in charge of what goes on in here. I can do something about that. If you're thinking, if that person would just change, I'll be fine. I don't think so. I don't think you're going to be fine. If we can just do something in this government, if we could just do this over here, if we could just do that over there, if that person would just do what I want them to do, if this situation would turn out just the way I want it to, I'll be just fine. enough said. Oh, I put this guy up there because this is my role model. He's got nothing left to do except just be in the light. Be the light and shine the light. And that's about it. That's really all you really need to do because you are the light. Finally, what more could you ask for? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? You want to have victory over someone? You want to kill the other guy? Come on, what's going on around here? You're the light of the world. What game are you playing to ignore that fact? Jesus said you were the light of the world. I don't think he was lying about that. I don't think he was fooling around. I will there be light. That's what I'm going to do with my will. I'm going to will that there be light. When we are willing the light in a situation, we are the ones who receive all the benefit. We are the first ones to receive. And then it extends out to others. And I really know that each day is calling me to will more light, to be more light in every way possible. When we awake together, and we are the real world. And so the time to awaken is now. There is no tomorrow. And that's another verse. I'm going to read this real quickly to you guys. I never got around to that one. Because there is no tomorrow. And this holds true today as it did back when Paul wrote it. He wrote it to the Romans. And he's telling them, and do this one thing, for knowing the time that we are in, that the time is now. It is high time to awake. For now is our salvation. And I put salvation as return to innocence. There's all kinds of ways to look at each word and their root meaning and go back and discover what it means for you. That's maieutic, metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. Look at the symbology and then look at what it means for you. And for me, salvation means returning to innocence. That my negative thoughts were the only thing affecting me. And I'm relinquishing them and returning to a better thought. The thought of innocence. The thought of my own purity. And so the time of our return to innocence is nearer than we think. Nearer than we believed. The night is far spent and the day is at hand. Therefore, let us cast off the works of darkness, or I would call unconsciousness, and let us put on the armor of the light. And that's all I really am calling each of us to do today, is to awaken to the truth of us and put on the armor of light. Like this guy back here, my wonderful role model. For it's true, you are the light of the world, my friends. And I'm very blessed to be with you. God bless you. Namaste.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass. And visit us online at www.unityoncapecod.org.